Lindsay Wagner, Dorian Kingi, read on FanX. Welcome to FanX, day 3. How are you guys doing? Surviving?
Yeah, doing good, sir.
Uh-oh.
Mike check.
Mic check.
There you go.
I'm going to take this one. Wireless, baby. There you are. We're good. So, 3 days. How's it been? I know this is not your first visit. Is it your first visit?
Yes, it's my first time here. It's great. Everybody's been super nice. Really well run the show. So thank you for having me.
This was going to be a Bionic duo panel. Then it was just you. And now it's a family affair, which is great. So the conversation is going to probably meander a little bit as we talk about you guys. But let's talk about you first. The Bionic Woman was so that you started in modeling. Let's start with that. You started as a model-ish. Fine. Okay, fine. Boring. You're a model. But then you hit this. You had it was a 2-episode arc in the $6 Million Man, I believe.
Well, it started with 2, and then they came to me, and then they brought me back, and then they brought me back to life, and lost my memory, so there was another 2, and so I couldn't get married to him, and then you all are responsible for this series, I gotta tell you, and your parents, because that's what made it the series. That's what brought her back to life, was everybody writing in saying, that's crazy. You know,
that's crazy. Nowadays it wouldn't be that polite. They wouldn't say that's crazy. There would be other things bandied about. But you're right. How many great TV shows have been saved over the years by fans going, that is incorrect? I believe Star Trek being the first big one that was saved. But yeah, you were saved by the fans, which God bless them. Or we don't get this great character, this great extension of that universe. And then after season 2, I believe they canceled you, but then you moved to another network.
Yes, NBC.
NBC picked you up. Probably one of the smartest things NBC has ever done.
But they fired me right at the very end of the season.
Well,
okay, so here's the nuance that you're missing. The reason that we were dropped at ABC was because just as our series came on, was really grabbing hold, there was a new director of development at ABC. And like big corporations, I'm sure you've heard, the new CEO comes in and they want to clear the house, bring on their own people. Well, this fellow was doing the same thing with programming. He didn't want things that he had not developed on there. 6 Mil was already very well received and high. And so this my show came on, and he started sending out PR that was just saying how bad our ratings were. Now, then we didn't have internet, we didn't have a way of you all knowing what was really going on, and only the people in the inside business and the other networks. So when he did this negative campaign about it, everybody's going, oh, they're going down, that's unusual. Anyway, blah, 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 they started buying into it. And NBC went, that's ridiculous, we're fine, come over here. So we did that. And then it started to go again. Now, NBC was the third in line. There were only 3 stations then, right? And NBC was, as far as ratings go, their company ratings they were the least. There was ABC, CBS, and then NBC. And so they wanted to build up their business were a little bit better. So since this guy was so successful with ABC, they hired him away from ABC. He came to NBC. Anyway, get that show out of here. So I was fired twice from the same man at a different network.
That you almost can't write that.
I know.
If you tried to write that and sell it, they'd be like, no, I'm just going to buy that. That just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Unless the network was Fox. Dorian, how did it feel when you were growing up? Did you know that your mom was basically a superhero?
Well, it was kind of like the family business. There wasn't any frame of reference that it was different in that kind of way, right? Like, so mom's an actress, dad's a stuntman. When I went to work with them, wherever that was, it was on set, right? So it's like they did the same job sort of in the same space. So I didn't really have a lot of frame of reference. And they said, the funny part is when people were like, oh, how was it growing up? I was like, I grew up in a trailer. And I'm like, yeah, but your thing, I was like, no, it was in her trailer, but it was still a trailer.
Take your kid to work day was really interesting at your house. That's how that works. Every day was taking your kid to work day. So why did you gravitate more towards stunts? To begin with?
I don't know, I was just always very, just kind of athletic and was put in to, you know, almost every sport that was there available, and we were all just very active kids, you know, playing outside a lot and living next to the ocean and boogie boarding and swimming, bicycling and playing baseball and stuff. So it just kind of, it didn't really, it kind of became an easier concept to just jump into something like, oh, you just have to be physical. Oh, I can do that. You know, so it just, we were almost having these skills brought to us as kids, not knowing we were going to use them later. Right. That makes sense?
Yeah. So your dad obviously stunted. Do you feel like he pushed you, or was he just trying to keep you active and busy boys to curb that energy? Did he realize early on, or did there come a point where you realized that he realized you were good at this, or this was something you might do moving forward, as opposed to following mom and just being in front of the camera with actual lines and not getting set on fire or thrown off a building?
I don't fully know the exact time frame of when that was in there, but I think at some point you probably knew, like, look, I'm just going to give you all the tools that I can give you and put you in the situations to have these skills for later, and, you know, we'll let you dabble as you get older, you know. And
Were you when you did your first job, and you just said, hey, this would be fun, why don't you come do this? Or,
yeah. So it wasn't an overly forced thing.
talk about that just a little bit.
Yes.
Forced.
Yeah, no, like it wasn't forced, but it was brought up. But because
you
it
were
was
7 or 8?
11.
11.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 11.
Yeah.
Obviously, someone was not paying attention to the child labor laws.
Well, prior to that whole thing, though, that was the generation. Like I started late compared to my other friends and their kids too. I mean, they were starting at like 5 and 6 sometimes for doing stunts, because you know, if you're the son of a stunt person, you knew how to play fight and do all these other things, and you could double for an actor that was a kid. And then later on, they changed it to where they had like little people that were doing it for kids at that point too. But still, I mean, even now, it's like few and far between, but most of the kids that get hired to do stunts are the sons and daughters of stunt people.
They are actual.
They are. So my daughter almost got her first SAG job like a year and a half ago. Like, was gonna double a kid like floating down in a river, like pretending to be dead. So we're practicing in the bathtub and putting like wax balls.
So little sweetie, I need you to come into the bathroom. We need to practice drowning.
Yeah, and she's great. She's like, how do I do that? And you guys like, no, let's clock it again. So it just becomes kind of the norm in that way too. If they don't like it, then you're not gonna force them to do it.
No, I don't think you can. Wow.
Well, there's other kids friends that I've had that are second generations that had that, and it was pretty. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny then.
Did you ever worry about him doing any of that stuff as a?
No, not really. I think, you know, everybody else is that, and for the most part, no, because they're so careful. I mean, the stunt business is, it's not just a bunch of old cowboys saying, hey, I can do that. I've done it 3 times like that before in my life. I'll do that for you. No, it's not that anymore. They're so careful. They're precise. They measure. They weigh the air. What do you call it? Windshield. You know, it's very scientific as much as you can, and then of course then there's life that can come into it, and something can get fumbled up, or somebody can't make a miscalculation or something. and people can get hurt. But I'll let you give me the statistics, how many people actually get hurt on a ratio basis compared to you driving to work every day, or your kids walking home from school, or maybe playing football for your high school. I mean, it's so little, it's so few ratio-wise. So, and I knew that. I've done a lot of bionics and knew the whole thing. So I wasn't really that worried, and I know and was super careful with that. And they were following me just as brilliant in their own young ways. I could see it in them already. Not with each other.
Not that you saw. No, so on Bionic, a lot of stunts, a lot of fights, a lot of action. Was that difficult for you to do the parts that you could do before the stunt people came and said, okay, we have this? But how much did you do? Did you feel comfortable doing?
It wasn't difficult because I only did the things I thought I could do. So my limit was a one-story jump. That's it.
Off the platform, 9, 10 feet, 12 feet, something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it would be. So that big hotel down in Hollywood. Anyway, there's a big awning there, and then there's planters on top of the awning at the entrance of the hotel. Then there's windows of the rooms that go on up from there. And this stunt was, I don't know, beauty episode, I don't remember the beauty contest, but whatever it was. My stunt though was to jump out, because usually, okay, backing up a little bit, usually when you see a scene where we're doing a jump down, you see me jump off of a platform that you can't see and kind of disappear, and then you see Rita, my stunt double, jumping down, and they pick her cut. It's 3 different cuts. My takeoff, her drop, and then my landing, which they rig up a platform for me to jump off of and jump to the ground. So they put all 3 of those together, so it looks like one big long jump. Well, this time they said, we can actually, because of the way it's structured, we can actually get a shot that doesn't have any cuts in it. And because Rita's going to jump out of the window, but 2 stories up, drop down into her airbag where they had her jumping into, which was behind the bushes. Camera's still running. I go around the bushes and jump off because I'm hiding in the brick behind the bushes, and then I jump off and down to the ground. So they had the first consecutive shot of a jump was that, and that's kind of how they did it.
That's actually really cool.
I went into an airbag.
As a stunt guy, how often do you guys come up with creative stretches to do stuff like? I mean, so much today is control, and there's safety lines, and we'll wipe those out in post, and we can CGI this and the other. But how often do you guys practically look at something and go, we can play with that?
Depending on the person and the style of the film too, of what we need to do, or if it's budgetary constraints, it can be an issue. But we always like to try to do it practical. It always feels,
as a viewer, I think I can speak for everyone. It always feels better.
It does. It absolutely does. And I have a friend of ours he's a second unit director, and he does like most of the Fast and Furious movies, if not all of them. And he always pushes for practical stuff. And whenever it's a sequence that he does, whenever you're like, oh, that was fake, you're like, no, that was real. You know what I mean? Like there's like a giant wrecking ball that comes down and smashes cars and throws them out of the way. Like that was a real wrecking ball. But I was, we'll do it in CG, and we'll just pull the car out and we can do this thing. He's like, why? He's like, we could do it for real. We could do it safely. But it does feel that much better, and you don't realize it too when you're like, man, why was that scene so much cooler than the other ones? Because it actually was real. Whether you've maybe added some fake smoke or some CGI debris, it ended up, it just, your body knows that.
The important parts, all the key parts are actually there. That is incredibly important.
The thing that she was talking about with the thing is called the Texas switch. That's what they ended up doing. Yeah, for some, so we do this and that, and he hits this guy and falls down. We'll do a Texas switch for that. Okay, cool. And it's kind of like this thing.
All the stunt man short
to learn how to do that. Like,
got a book of that? Can I pick that up somewhere? Because it's like the Con Man Bible, where all the different cons have names, all the stunt movers have names. So back to Bionic. So okay, so you go to NBC, and before you get fired again by that idiot. What about that show did you like? What about Jamie Summers did you like playing or portraying most in that show? I mean, because there's action, there's spy stuff, but what aside, I mean, if that's the most important thing, that's cool. But I mean, was there something about Jamie Summers that you just went to work every day and you were like, I like this one?
Well, I was very involved in creating who Jamie was. So it wasn't just I showed up and went, oh, we're going to do this today. As a matter of fact, when I accepted the job, I said, if we can have collaboration rights, then I'll do the show. Because I didn't want this first female action character on TV to just do the stories that have been revamped for me, that were for men, and that I'm going to be basically a man in a skirt, conquering the world with my might, So there were so many other things that we wanted to put into it, or I wanted to put in, and they embraced that, they loved it, and because we were so demanded by the public, it gave me power. The networks let us try it. Okay, so we did things the way we wanted to do them, and made her feminine, made her sensitive, made her intuitive, helpful with things that typically I don't want to use the word hero, like the agent wouldn't be dealing with. The agent wouldn't try to talk to this young kid's. Anybody remember the episode of when the king, somebody about the king and the son from the Middle East? Remember that? Like the belly dance? Well, he had a son, and the son was always getting put down by his dad. So she's kind of mentoring him and helping him a little bit while she's trying to take down his dad. I mean, what does a spy would do that? So, but because I wanted to keep her human, I wanted to keep her female, I wanted to keep her those natural instincts and the things that we all have, male and female inside of us. And so it was just, I wanted to keep it real. And that's what brought me to work every day. That's what brought me to this character, because it was sci-fi and we could do whatever we wanted.
That's true. That's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned Jamie was one of the first real female heroes, protagonists. But before that, I was trying to think. It's like you have that appeal, but she was very businesslike. She was an agent, in the Avengers. So she kicked butt. Yeah, the British series with I can't even remember anymore. But she, British spy. But she was very businesslike. She was very task oriented. So, but yeah, Jamie comes along, and one of her covers is she becomes a teacher, if I recall correctly.
Well, yeah, that was because they had to keep her alive because everybody wrote into just horrible things like, how could you kill her like that? Oh my God. There were even children's hospitals that wrote in to the network and said, "What are you crazy? We've got so many kids in our hospital was absolutely traumatized by her dying. They're in here trying to fight for their life, and you have the quintessential figure of a male today with 3 majors, and now you've got this female version of that, and you just killed her. And so you gotta bring her back to life. So what are we gonna do with her? She can't go back on the tennis circuit because she's now bionic. That doesn't work. And so, yeah. And so, kids needing to know she's okay, let's make her a teacher. So that's how she became a teacher.
That's an excellent choice.
Yeah.
I just lost it. I'll get there. It was right there in my head. But yeah, going back to Bionic, the spinoff of $6 Million Man. So you come on, you're a love interest, they kill you, they bring you back, but you have amnesia. It's like, oh no, it almost could have been a soap opera.
Yeah.
But it's not, because the way it winds up getting played and done. I wanted to ask about the other 2 series regulars, Oscar and Rudy.
You know they had to do the amnesia thing, because if they didn't do amnesia, then I would have stayed on the show. I didn't want that. And one of the formula things that are in series, male-oriented series formula, especially back then, was that he can have girlfriends, but there's always a chance that the audience women were fantasizing about being with him if he gets married. That's not cool. So they had to get rid of me. And that's why they had Amnesia, so that I wouldn't have to stay on the show.
Yeah, well, that's funny because you might have been the one. This might have been the one instance where the fans would have been like, "Repeat that." And it took them another 15 years to come back and actually put you guys in 3 movies to put you guys together. Is it weird as an actor to drop back in at these big increments and be that character? But it's not just a continuation, it's, there's a big gap there. So how do you approach refinding Jamie Summers at that point in her existence, and at this point in her existence, and then later on? I mean, because those movies, there's 5-6 year gaps in there. It's like, that's not insubstantial in a human being's development. There's a lot of things happen. So how do you come back and look at Jamie? Okay, how is Jamie the same as she was, but how has she grown? So what do you do?
Well, I grew. So it was not very heavy research. I just pulled from my life. I also, this many more years later, I also now have children. I also, I just drew for myself, as I did with her initially. I wasn't trying to make Jamie much different than when I did it to begin with. So, because I was involved in development, I never had to deal with losing arms and having to have things put back on, but having broken my tailbone and not being able to move and have my mother turn me over for a while as it was healing and stuff like that was, I had things I could draw on that my own experience, and so it's kind of the same way as far as the emotional and mental aspects of someone else's growth. You only have what you have.
That's all, yeah.
And as much as you'd like to be totally different than yourself, when you're not totally different than yourself, if you're doing a real good job, you see somebody doing something really horrible and it was so real, oh my God, I really want to go to dinner with them. It's like, when you think about it in those terms.
Dorian, as a stuntman, you become someone that you're not. As a stuntman, you have to embody this person up to and through the stunt. So it's not you doing this run, fall, jump through whatever. It's actor X that you're doing the run, fall, jump through. How much time? I know stuntmen and regular stuntmen and their regular people, they get very close. Did you start with a regular person or a person that you regularly doubled for or stunted for, or were you kind of he's really good at that, bring him in here for this?
Yeah, I kind of ended up being like a jack of all trades, because the generation that I was, like my parents' generation, in terms of, especially in the stunt world too, is you had to kind of know how to do everything, a little bit. You had to ride a horse, ride a motorcycle, or you know how to swim, or you could, like you said, play sports and throw with both hands, and these kind of very dexterous situations. So because of my body type as well, I wasn't called upon to double a consistent person, because you're like, hey, who's that other 6'5", 160-pound guy that's a superhero or something? It's not really normal until a show called iCarly came along, which is a Nickelodeon show, and I ended up doubling in the show. So
all you iCarly fans did ask your questions.
So I ended up stunt doubling for Spencer, who was the lead. So Carly was the younger sister, and then the older brother was doing all the banana peel falls and falling down the stairs and lighting his head on fire and doing all that stuff. So that was the most consistent stunt doubling job that I've had outside of movies. You know what I mean? But it wasn't continuing outside of that. So it was very sporadic in the beginning when I was younger.
Yeah, and as your career develops and the movies start coming, you moved into body doubling for people of 6'4", 165. And you moved into more
creature acting.
Okay, fine. We'll call it creature acting, which is where I'm going. And you moving into more in front, more Dorian is in this movie, not Dorian is behind this movie. a little bit, I was reminded kind of the career development of Doug Jones, in the best possible way. Have you realized? I'm sure someone's pointed that out to you. Doug's probably pointed that out to you if you run into him. Sorry, you're right. But again, weird body types, tall, thin, athletic, tough to find a spot. So when you find a niche, and with Doug it's creature acting, what is your, where do you feel you are best suited to kind of make this transition out to be that guy?
That's where I got my start, actually doing creature work. Was my first job, was doubling him on a movie called The Time Machine in 2001.
The Guy Pearce. God, that movie is so good if you've never watched it.
Yeah, I got called because I was, doing stunts and like acting kid parts and stuff, and then it came around to where I got a call like, hey, are you claustrophobic? I was like, no. They're like, all right, cool, we're gonna have you get in a creature suit, double this guy named Doug Jones. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's the guy from Hocus Pocus, and he was from this and that, and all these different things. And so we became friends, and then we did Fantastic Four, the Silver Surfer, and so I doubled him for the Silver Surfer, and then we just,
Which is weird, because in a way he's just doubling the CGI, and you're doubling him. That's
that was one of the most disappointing promotional pushes of a show that I've ever worked on. It was because he's in a suit, like I'm in a suit.
Right.
Like we were, flying through the air, like on wires and on these giant like gimbals that had a board strapped to it, and coming into these things, and they go, oh, it's all CGI, and I go, no, it's not. It wasn't. They had a promote so late. I don't care. They had this fake promotional photo shoot that they wanted to do, like, hey, can we put you in a green screen shoot? We're going to say that it's all CGI. And I'm like, no, it's not CGI. Like, why? Everybody thinks CGI is cooler. I was like, how about the fact that your suit cost you like $1 million? That would be cool. So it's the most expensive suit known to man. At the time, it was the most expensive suit built for a film, and they're just going to try to sweep it under the rug and say that we don't exist.
And you could die by falling off that board. You're not going to die falling off a green screen, traditionally.
Right? So it was just kind of like disappointing in that realm too, to where it was so cool that, the sort of stuff. But yes, there were bits that were CGI, but as a whole, like, Doug was in it and I was in it. We were physically in a really cool, suit made by Spectral Motion, and they were a fantastic company, and they just designed a really cool suit. So that's just kind of the hard part of that gray area where they try to bump up, like even like the whole stuff with AI now and all that jazz. And like, that's a whole other conversation.
That is
you still need people. That's the funny part. Even like my job description for me is that they come up to the booth and they say, oh, you were this or you were that. And you're like, what's that CGI? I was like, behind that's me. You know what I mean? The person moving, there's other people that do that. The person moving and creating the movements and the body language and the action and even the initial scream until they kind of tweak it and make it more superhuman is a person behind that. And so that's never really seen too much.
Yeah, the verbiage has kind of changed. It used to be motion capture, and now it's performance capture. And I think Andy Serkis really kind of drove that with all of the incredible work that he did behind the scenes. Do you like performance capture better than mocap? Do you feel better about that term?
No, because it's still different. It's because you're capturing the performance motion capture. I mean, those two words are kind of the same to me, because then they go, oh, well, did you, like your body double this and that? And I was like, well, for Cad Bane, right? Like, I'm Cad Bane, and Corey Burton is the voice of Cad Bane. We both are that character,
right.
You know what I mean? So in that, there's trying to like split hairs with creating other verbiages to, like overly create a specific niche to justify. I'm like, why can't we both be the same thing? Because we both are like, one of the perfect examples that I still love is from the first Ninja Turtles live action movie. Mm-hmm. If you look at the credits in that film, all the credits of like Leonardo, Donatello, whatever, the first set of credits is the guys that were in the suit.
Doing the work
in the suit, and then after that section comes down, it says voice of Leonardo, so voice of Donatello. So literally everybody, because it's a visual media.
Right? Who directed that movie?
I don't know. I should know that.
I should know that too.
If I was on.
Who knows?
But that was.
Wasn't
but in that, they paid respects to that process. I think that's kind of the lost art at this point too, because now the voice, even though people are super talented, the voice isn't who they are, but they're giving more credit to like the voice than the person that you're watching on the screen first, and I'm like, that's not totally fair in my mind, but that's just me fighting to fight.
Yeah, Doug went through that with Hellboy, the first Hellboy.
He sounded perfect. And then he did the second one.
I know, I was just saying, they dubbed him in the first one, and then apparently didn't want to pay another actor, so we'll just use the same guy who's actually already saying the words anyway.
Yeah, well, it's because the actor that came in to double his voice came in day one and looked at the screen and was going to say the lines. He goes, "Well, what's wrong with that?" He literally said, he was just like, literally, "What's wrong?" He said, "He sounded just like me, and it's great. Like, why am I here?" And he was contracted to do it, finished out the deal, and then part two, they pushed it like, "Dude, I don't need to do this again." Doug sounds great.
That's integrity in this business.
Yeah.
David Hyder.
Yeah, and he sounds so much alike. Like,
it's so close, it's freaky.
Yeah, but it was a name thing, you know? They kind of go, "Oh, we're going to know his name versus their town."
I guess that's part of a function of the loss of seeing the actor. When you're seeing a character, if I don't see her face or your face, is it you? You know,
Right, yeah.
You know, so it's, I kind of get that. Lindsay, is it interesting for you to watch his career develop now? And go from 11-year-old flaming stunt boy to where he is now. He's Cat Bane. Off the top of my head, I couldn't have named the voice of Cat Bane, but I knew it was you out there doing it. You know, and not everyone knows the two or three other guys that play the Mandalorian, but everyone knows Pedro. So, is it interesting for you to see him go from, again, flaming 11-year-old to the face? That's right.
I love that word.
I like it. That's just how I'm going to refer to you from now on. We enjoy you, flaming 11-year-old. But no, to be the face of a character that is huge in that fandom. Cad Bane, when they said Cad Bane's going to come, people lost their minds. And then he popped up, and everyone lost their minds again. And now, you're one honest David Hyde Pierce away from voicing Cad Bane.
So Corey Bird is amazing, by the way, so there's no discrediting Corey Bird.
But what's it like as a mom to watch him work his way up through and get to where it's still going? What is that like for you as a mom?
That's great, but it's not, having been where I've been, it's not like, wow, somebody who's never experienced that. It's probably different for me. It's not that I expected it or that you don't see it as wonderful. I'm incredibly proud of him, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Where I get the wow is not because he's got a big part,
right,
or because he's got a big thing. It tickles me because now we can do shows together.
That was actually one of my future questions. Like, is it weird going on the con circuit with your mom?
It's so cool. It's so weird.
Dorian, you want to go out tonight? We're gonna get some. I gotta go up there with my mom.
It's awesome. No, it's good. That's really like a cooler situation. She's also like the best acting coach ever. By the way, we're doing. I got this role. I gotta do, and who is this guy? It's a Star Wars thing. Tell me what these lines, please. And she's like, okay. So that was epic and so helpful.
So you're gonna work her into some kind of voice job for season 2 or 3 or 4 of something in Star Wars, right? We're gonna see that line and we're gonna be like, wait, what did that just happen? Mm-hmm. That would be awesome. If you could, would you do a Star Wars, just a one-off Star Wars voice? What kind of? Are you?
You're asking me what kind? With the stuff that you see on Star Wars?
Well, good.
I have no imagination. This is more than any of that.
You want to be a hero? You want to be a villain? You want to be a what's the word I'm looking for?
Twi'lek.
Or a Twi'lek.
A what?
A
A toilet. What is she?
Twi'lek.
Oh, a toilet.
With the Twi'lek. Yes.
Oh, see? Oh, is that what you are? Okay, see how much I know about all that? And he wants me to
I'm trying to teach you
something.
guys. I'm trying.
He's working on it slowly. Okay, now thank you for the lesson. I now know this one.
We'll get her in as Cad Bane's arms dealer, arms supplier.
Oh, there you go.
That way, no one will catch on. We'll unbill it. We'll see who catches. That's what will happen.
I like that. I can do that. I'm always playing the good guy.
Right? Yeah, no, it's a good. Would you like to play a bad guy?
It all depends on what the bad guy is, what they're doing, and how it ends. I mean, content is very important.
Such a cop out. Would you rather do a dramatic character or a not a comedic character, but a more lighthearted character? Where would you rather be like, either like a stern police sergeant or evil arms dealer, or someone a little lighter that's fun to work with? in a show? Where do you fall? Where do you want your character to be?
See,
For fun.
I think I'm about versatility. Therefore,
Yeah, so you get to mold your
but I
character.
don't, yeah. But also, because I've done so much drama, casting people don't think about me or even think to try me out on a comedy, which I've always wanted to do.
All right, comedy. You got it.
But that's, and as a voice, no, I don't think so. I'm good with Mother, you know. I mean, my family's funny. My mom's funny. My grandmother was funny. I think I'm funny. And so to be able to bring nuances and stuff like that, that would be a really fun area for me to be able to work. And I mean, you know, we did it in Bionic. There was a lot of funny stuff in there, my facial expressions and things, you know, that we worked with in there. But never beyond that, really.
Yeah, that might be fun to see you in a more heavier comedy role. On Bionic, a lot of times, a lot of the stuff that I was reading coming into this, just to refresh my memory, is all the intellectual analysis. You know, a lot of them are like, oh, and it's, you know, it's an examination of both Steve and Jamie coming to terms with they're not fully human anymore, and they're trying to do this, you know, what is a person kind of thing. And I was reading all that and was like,
Who's saying that?
the intellectual analysis of the shows.
But we never said it on the show.
No, you never did. But did you ever feel like you were just thinking like, does Jamie act this way, or you know, is Lee Majors acting as Steve this way? Maybe because is there a reaction there that's not human? And I asked this specifically because you mentioned something, but the episode that jumped out to me in the Bionics was on the $6 Million Man. A friend of Steve's was a race car driver, and I can't remember the actor who played it off the top of my head. And he wound up getting, I think, 4-limb bionic replacement, but he couldn't handle it, and he couldn't drive anymore. And he was complaining because his reflexes weren't fast enough. They said, well, we turned them down to normal, and they're like, I wasn't normal. And it's like, it's a weird thing to think about. It's like, what is normal? What makes a human? What makes one person more gifted than another? Did you guys ever think about that at all during the show? I mean, because it is, I mean, a lot of pieces were replaced, but you know, obviously Jamie's heart stayed intact, Steve's mind stayed intact, his sense of loyalty stayed intact, but at what point do you realize I'm not all the way what I was as a character?
It's kind of a mind game. I mean, I don't know what that door is. I never felt Jamie feel not human. There was never that intention for her to have that struggle, although things could bring up that thought in her mind, but to me, I wanted her to be bigger. I mean, when you think about it, it's really all about your perspective. It's about what your mind does with this information. And it's like you take two different people who've lost limbs, and they have now artificial limbs, and this one is living very healthily because and mentally as well, because they've been able to embrace that they are still themselves, that I am now this, and I have this. There's an and in it. It's not an I am. Whereas somebody else just can't quite make that leap. And it's very difficult and, you know, depressing, and the image, self-image, all of that kind of thing, not feeling good enough. Whereas somebody else will come rolling up maybe on a wheelchair or home, whatever. How you doing?
Right.
You know, like, I'm here.
Positivity.
That, you know, that attitude. I am here. So they made the challenge, the psychological challenge of remembering who they are and just adding this to it. And the other person, until they can do that, it's a tough life. So Jamie did that. And we brought up, I think, little bits and pieces in certain episodes to kind of show that that's a struggle. But you know, I always wanted to have, not to have her be more superhuman, but to have her challenges represent, especially because we were talking to kids as well as adults, that no matter what your challenge is, if you think about it right, you see about it, you can continue, you can go on, you can transcend that circumstance and be happy, be full, and be productive. And, that's the attitude that we wanted to convey to the kids, which is a subliminal message. And you can do it. So.
That's great. By the time we get to the third movie, where Steve and Jamie finally get married, were you happy that they finally said, finally we're going to make this happen?
You're going to turn it around. We're doing another movie.
Okay.
Are we getting married in this one, guys?
Oh.
No. We're just, I said, well, if we're not getting married in it, I'm not doing it. That's how it came about. Because I said, we have told this audience for years and years and meetings, and they're old enough now to sit here and think about it, not just be a little kid dream about it.
So we can all do the same thing. Apparently, it's about time.
Yeah, so we said, okay.
What the heck is wrong with you people?
Finally, okay, we will also.
That's awesome. And America was happy. The world might have been happy, but America was definitely happy at the time. Dorian, you grew up, and so you saw all those movies, you saw the series, you saw the movies.
Not really.
Well, a little bit later. But, again, looking back on it, and especially now that you get to sit through all these panels and you get to hear all of the people that lived through this. Do you look at that pre-you time, I guess, differently? Do you look at, do things about your mom make sense more now? The way she does things, maybe what she tells you, the advice she gives you. Do you see that a little different now that you're kind of seeing her through their eyes? Yes,
I feel like I kind of already have as time goes on and I got older. I got to, see somebody, we're at a restaurant, maybe having dinner, and somebody would come up and be like, hey, I like the show, and somebody else would come up and be like, hey, you changed my life because of the situation that I was going through at the time, and this episode helped me get through one of the worst times of my life, kind of thing. So like having these pin drops of all different walks of life were so impactful. By the time, I got old enough to really kind of take it all in, I realized how much different she is and was in taking this responsibility of being influential. I say more so than a lot of other actors might do or have done, and it just shows like the oil and water mix of like how much different she is and how much more, why she was that much more impactful versus like, hey, I really like that guy, and she literally was doing it for them versus like a lot of actors doing it for themselves, and they happen to have fans because of it. So she's like, her impact on the world and her fans supersedes most other actors that I've ever met and known based off of their personal stories.
Once you kind of processed all of that, has that changed the way you approach your work at all? Or was that just kind of drilled into you?
In my own way, it's different because the roles that I play, I feel, aren't necessarily as heavy. They can be like a heavy situation and a really cool scene and different stuff, but my thing ends up coming to, all right, the best job that I can do in this moment is like being a fan myself, or like getting my nerdness on. And I show up to a set and they're like, hey, you're gonna be this comic book character. I'm like, sweet. And I was like, you know what this character does? He does this, he does this, he does this, he does this. And they're like, we're not gonna do that. And I was like, well, you're stupid.
Henry Cavill gets fired for saying that.
Yeah, I just literally it's just so frustrating to where. So then I think that's when characters that I hopefully been a part of and been like, hey, this needs to happen. That's very different. But like, I really kind of stick my foot in my mouth sometimes, but it's because as a fan, I want to see that. And they go like other stuff, and they're like, well, we're not even like Silver Surfer in the beginning, and this was more Doug than me, obviously, but as a fan, I came up and I brought like comic books, and I was trying to show them like things that he could have done and did do, and they're like, he might not even be on a surfboard, and we're like, what? He's going to be floating on a cloud of mist, and I'm just like, so he's surfing mist. Cool, you've already lost me, I'm a fan, and now I'm working on the movie. Eventually, corrected themselves and put them on a board. But there's stuff like that, so where as a fan, I think that's maybe a little bit more of my caretaking, of taking my job seriously, and then people go, hey man, that was really good. I was like, yeah, because I'm a nerd too, this is what we did, and this and that, you agree with me? Oh, perfect. So that's kind of what gives me gratification in that, and then coming into this sphere, we can like really grow out with the fans, which is cool.
If I can jump in and say something about the concept of what we're talking about is caring about everything and everyone, not just me, how it's going to help me and help me, whatever. That's a life concept to me, and I feel that what I've seen in him, and he's got a great story, which is a great story about the battle, the World War II story. Where those principles I see in him, he lives his life for those. So it's not just about whether you're going to do it in a role as somebody who might not have that moment. Because, you know what I'm talking about?
The mindset issue? Sure.
That's what I'm talking about. So I see it in him, and that tickles me as well. Because it isn't about the character. Just go ahead and tell me, I'll understand.
Yeah, I think it's also too because people are so in this business, you're supposed to like do as you're told, and no matter what, like whether it doesn't go well.
Yeah, I mean, I have more latitude to jump in and maybe rattle the cage.
Yeah.
More than he does, but that didn't stop him.
Yeah, like I don't mind getting fired if I can. if it's passing my morals or a safety issue, like you can go get somebody else because I know you can't. You know what I mean? Like go get somebody else. I was on a TV show and there was this big, massive battle sequence, and we had like tanks and hovercrafts and like military garb, and we're all these guys, and like these SEAL teams are coming up, and we're the bad guys. And I had some really good friends and family that were also working with us, and it was this big battle stunt sequence, and we're supposed to go over this ridge, and then these guys are coming up this way. And our first take, we do it, we all get shot, fall down, and then behind us are these explosions, and the hillside like slightly catches on fire. No big deal because it's behind us, another, 25 yards or something. So they take another 15, 20 minutes to like put out the fire, and they go, okay, now the mortars that were exploding back there, we're gonna do another take, but they explode in front of us. And I go, they said, anybody have any questions? I go, I do. They're like, I'm like, what's in it? And because you can be, sometimes it's just powder and dirt, right? And sometimes there's like fireballs that they have, and depending on what it is. So I need the question. I go, what's in the mortar? They're like, oh, it's gonna look great. It's gonna look great. I go, that's not an answer. Like, what's in the mortar? So what? You don't want to do it? And I go, okay, cool. It's gonna get weird. All right, let's go. Like I was just ready to like kind of fight for my friends and myself. And I go, look, that's not the question. We're probably gonna do it, but we need to know if I'm gonna fall down. There's flaming chunks falling from the sky. I'm not gonna land on my back. I'm gonna land on my stomach because then I'm gonna, like protect myself, or these people are gonna know it too. And it turned into this huge like fight on set. Verbally, between me and the pyrofix guy, and he also had like a missing finger and like scars on his face, and I'm like, I know you've been through the ringer, buddy, however, I don't feel like I want to walk home looking like that right now. And then first he got involved, and other people sent us aside, and it turned into this big thing. He's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? He's like, I just want to know what's in it. And they finally never said it, and I said, well, what make you feel comfortable? I said, I want a wet down, and that wet down means you just come in with water, you spray down the area so that way all this other brush that I'm laying right next to doesn't totally catch on fire. This thing like singe and it'll go out. And I ended up.
Did they wet you down too?
No, they didn't wet us down. They wet down the environment. So we did the take, everything was fine, and then uncle, that didn't work for them ever again. But at the same time, I was like, at the time it was like my girlfriend, who was now my wife, was on the set as well doing that sequence. We had like other friends that are really close to me that were on set, where there was a bunch of us going to do this thing, but at that time,
even if it hadn't been your family,
it didn't matter. Yeah, I just couldn't justify.
It's amplified it. Yeah.
Yeah, that issue.
One second. We've got like 2 minutes left, so I can wrap up because I'm gonna have to get some people out of here. Are you guys going to be back at your tables after this?
Yes. Yeah.
Lindsay and Dorian will be back at their tables. Please feel free to swing by and say hello. ask the question that you didn't ask here, that you had your chance to. They had their chance, but they didn't. So we have a quick announcement.
Hey, if you're able to go out of the side doors. If you go out there, it is packed for people coming in here. So to like help everybody out, go out of the side doors, please.
Thank you. Thank you.